My name's Michael, and I'm 27. My parents, who always prioritized themselves, poured $200,000 into my siblings' lives while expecting me to be grateful for their scraps. Now they're broke and full of regret, but what I said shifted everything. Growing up, I was the invisible child in a family of 5. I have 2 siblings, an older sister, Sarah, and a younger brother, Chris. To say they were the favorites is an understatement. To my parents, they were perfect, untouchable. Me, I was just there. Sarah was the golden child. She aced school, joined every club, and eventually landed a spot at a prestigious Ivy League university. When her acceptance letter arrived, my parents couldn't contain their excitement. They threw a lavish party, inviting family and friends, as if it were a national holiday celebrating Sarah's brilliance. Then there was Chris, who coasted through life with ease. He followed in Sarah's footsteps, securing a place in a top-tier graduate program. My parents covered everything for him: tuition, moving costs, even a shiny new laptop. And me. I went to a state university. It wasn't a bad school, but it wasn't the kind of place my parents boasted about. When I shared my acceptance news, they gave me a curt nod and a lukewarm, "That's nice, Michael." No party, no fanfare. Maybe we got pizza that night if I'm being generous. As I got older, the differences became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just about attention, it was about money too. Take Sarah's wedding, $200,000. No exaggeration. They spared no expense: fancy venue, gourmet catering, designer dress, the works. They even flew in distant relatives to attend. For Chris, they bankrolled his entire graduate education and paid his rent until he was settled. Emily, the youngest, never had to worry about student loans. My parents took care of those too. But when I needed help starting my career, asking for basic equipment, they handed me $7,000. It's not nothing, but compared to a $200,000 wedding or fully funded tuition, it felt like a token gesture, just enough to say they'd helped. It wasn't only the money. Family gatherings drove the point home. Every dinner revolved around Sarah's high-flying career or Chris's latest milestone. They'd talk about exotic trips, home renovations, or their next big purchase. I'd sit there, eating quietly, searching for something worth contributing. What could I say? Hey, I paid off a chunk of my car loan. My achievements felt trivial next to theirs. One dinner about a year ago stands out. We were all gathered when the conversation, predictably, turned to Sarah's upcoming vacation. Sipping her wine, she casually mentioned, "We're off to Europe for a few weeks. It's so nice Mom and Dad are chipping in," like it was no big deal. Chris jumped in, joking about his wedding and how the $200,000 from our parents saved the day. Emily laughed about dodging tuition hikes because Mom and Dad had her covered. I stared at my plate, each word hitting like a punch. They hadn't just gotten money, they'd been handed entire futures. Meanwhile, I'd clawed my way through loans, side jobs, and endless hustle. The worst part? No one seemed to notice I was barely part of the conversation. Anger surged. My face heated, my hands tightened under the table. I couldn't hold it in. "Must be nice," I muttered. The room froze, all eyes locked on me. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean, Michael?" Her tone was half irritated, half baffled, as if she genuinely didn't get it. I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed, but the words spilled out. "It means not everyone got their life handed to them. Some of us had to earn every single thing we have." They didn't understand. Chris leaned back, smirking. "You're always acting like a victim. Didn't Mom and Dad get you those tools for work?" The smugness in his voice made my blood boil. Sure, $7,000 was something, but compared to hundreds of thousands for the others, it was nothing. "Yeah, they helped," I said, "but it's not even close to what you got, and you know it." Mom, ever the peacemaker, chimed in. "Michael, we gave you what we thought you needed. We tried to be fair." Fair? How was $7,000 fair compared to hundreds of thousands? "Fair," I snapped. "You paved their roads and left me to build mine from nothing." The argument escalated. Everyone had an excuse or dismissed me as overly dramatic. "You're making this bigger than it is," Dad said, shaking his head. "We gave you what you needed." Needed? They gave me the bare minimum. That was the real sting. They didn't even try to see my side. I'd had enough. I pushed my chair back, the sound scraping across the floor, and walked out. Their voices trailed after me, but I didn't look back. I was done accepting crumbs and pretending it was enough. As I stormed out of the house, rage consumed me. My chest tightened, my pulse raced, and each step down the driveway felt like sinking deeper into my thoughts. I had nowhere to go, I just needed to get away. It was late, around 10 p.m., and the neighborhood was quiet, the kind of stillness that feels heavy. My footsteps echoed on the pavement. No phone, no music, just my thoughts. I didn't want distractions. I needed to think. As I walked, that dinner replayed in my mind, Chris's smug grin, Sarah's cluelessness. They lived in their perfect bubble, oblivious to how suffocating it was for me. They were so comfortable while I was always on the outside, peering in. The more I thought, the angrier I got. Why didn't I say more? Why didn't I make them see? But then it hit me. No matter what I said, they wouldn't hear me. They had their truth and I had mine. Those truths weren't going to meet. I ended up at a park I used to visit as a kid, a 15-minute walk away. There was an old bench near the playground, tucked under some trees, my hideout back then. That night it felt like the only place I belonged. I sank onto the bench, leaned back against the cold wood, and looked up. The sky was sharp and clear, stars scattered like holes punched through the dark. Usually that would have calmed me. Not that night. All I could think about was how I'd spent my life chasing their approval, only to be given the bare minimum while my siblings got everything. My phone buzzed. I almost ignored it but glanced at the screen. Emily. Michael, where are you? Come back, let's talk. Talk? We'd talked plenty over the years, and it always ended the same. Them justifying, me nodding, expected to be grateful. I shoved the phone back in my pocket and leaned forward, elbows on my knees. I needed space, not another lecture. Sitting there, I replayed every memory, every time I was overlooked, every moment I was an afterthought. I wasn't a troublemaker, I didn't ask for much, but that never seemed to matter. It wasn't just the money, it was about feeling valued, like I was worth as much as Sarah or Chris. My phone buzzed again. Emily calling this time. I stared at her name, torn. Part of me wanted to ignore her, part of me hoped she might finally get it. After a moment, I answered. Michael, where are you? Her voice was calm, but carried that controlling edge she always had. Doesn't matter, I said flat. I'm not coming back tonight. Don't do this, she said. We're family, let's work this out. I let out a bitter laugh. Work it out, like always. Where I pour my heart out and you all tell me to be thankful for the scraps while you live your perfect lives. That's not fair, she shot back. Not fair, I said, my voice rising. Every dinner is about your trips, your weddings, your successes. I'm just the guy in the background, nodding along while I fight for every step. She went quiet. I could hear faint sounds from the house, clinking plates, laughter like nothing had happened. Look, she said finally, softer. Maybe we didn't see your side, but running away won't fix this. This isn't about tonight, I said, rubbing my face. It's about a lifetime of being the odd one out. You got everything. I got a toolbox. She didn't respond right away, just breathed into the phone. Then please come back, we'll figure it out. But I wasn't ready. I need time, I said, and hung up before she could reply. I leaned back on the bench, staring at the sky. I didn't expect miracles, but for that night I was done pretending everything was okay. I barely slept after leaving the park. Back at my apartment, my mind wouldn't stop. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the dinner. How could my family not see what I'd been through? They had their own lives, sure, but was it that hard to notice the imbalance? It wasn't just one night, it was years of brushing things off, telling myself it didn't matter. But it did, and it had built up for too long. This wasn't one moment of frustration, it was a lifetime of being sidelined. The money was part of it, but not the whole picture. It was about being expected to fend for myself while they got help without asking. I didn't want a handout. I wanted to be seen, to know my dreams and struggles mattered as much as Sarah's or Chris's. Lying there, I realized something surprising. The anger was fading. I was still hurt, still frustrated, but the fire had dulled into exhaustion. I was tired of fighting for a place in a family that didn't see me. When I woke up, things felt clearer, not better, just clearer. Nothing would change unless I made it happen. They weren't going to suddenly realize how unfair things had been. I had to act. Cutting them off completely crossed my mind, but it didn't feel right. They were still my family, flaws and all. I didn't want to lose them, I just wanted things to be different. I sat on my bed, staring out the window. It was early, just past 7 a.m., and the street was still silent. I thought about all the times I'd hinted at my feelings, only to be called sensitive or told to be grateful. I wasn't imagining this. I needed to prove it not with emotions but with facts, so I started digging. Old emails, bank statements, texts, anything that showed the disparity. I had the receipt for the $7,000 they gave me for tools. I remembered the times they gave Sarah or Chris money. I pieced it together, laying it out clearly, chronologically. It was painful rereading messages where they said they couldn't help with my rent because they were helping Sarah with her house. But it fueled me. This wasn't in my head, I had proof. I ignored Emily's texts as I worked. She was still trying to get me to talk. I wasn't ready. I spent the day organizing everything, dates, amounts, screenshots. By evening, I had a clear picture, a story I'd been trying to tell for years, now backed by evidence. It wasn't a victory, it felt hollow, but it was something. The question was when to confront them. Not by text or phone, this needed to be face-to-face. They were planning a family dinner for Emily's birthday soon. Terrible timing, sure, who wants to ruin a birthday? But there'd never be a perfect moment. I couldn't wait another year for them to figure it out. Emily's birthday dinner it was. It would be messy, but I was done staying silent. When the day came, I was a nervous wreck. I had everything ready, every email, every figure, every receipt, but walking into that house felt like walking into a storm. I arrived early to avoid entering a room full of laughter and normalcy. Everything felt too calm, like the last dinner hadn't happened. Mom was in the kitchen, Dad was at the grill, Emily was on the couch, scrolling her phone. "Hey, Michael, you okay?" she asked, like nothing was wrong. "Fine," I said, clutching the folder under my arm. My heart pounded. Sarah and Chris showed up, joking as always, slipping into their easy rhythm. It struck me how unaffected they seemed while I'd been consumed by this for days. Dinner followed the usual pattern, Mom asking about work, Sarah talking about another trip, Chris joking about wedding costs. I barely ate, my stomach in knots. Then, during dessert, I spoke up. "I need to say something," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. All eyes turned to me. "What's up?" Dad asked, brow raised. "I've been thinking since our last dinner," I said, placing the folder down. "I've never really shown you how I feel, so I brought proof." Mom looked uneasy. "Michael, it's Emily's birthday. Can this wait?" "If not now, when?" I said firmly. I walked to the living room, connected my laptop to the TV, and opened a slideshow, simple, just facts. The first slide showed education costs. Sarah's tuition, Chris's grad school, Emily's loans, then me with a tiny $7,000. "What is this?" Chris asked, frowning. "This," I said, "is my reality. This is what I've been living with." I clicked through slides, house payments, wedding expenses, gifts. The numbers were stark. Then my slide, $7,000, nothing else. Mom's face fell, Dad's jaw tightened. "I'm not saying you never helped," I said, "but look at the gap. This isn't just about money, it's about being valued." Dad spoke up. "We gave you what we thought you needed, Michael. You never asked for more." "I didn't ask because I knew the answer," I replied. "Every time I needed help, the money was gone, but it was always there for them." Sarah spoke. "Michael, I didn't know it was like this. I thought we were equal." "Did you?" I said sharply. "I've been saying this for years and I'm always told to be grateful." Chris leaned back. "I get it, but I worked hard too." "This isn't about work," I said. "It's about opportunity. You had a clear path. I was dodging obstacles." Emily, quiet until now, said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see it." I nodded. "That's the issue." No one did. The room fell silent. I closed the laptop. "I'm not asking for money or pity. I want you to see how hard it's been running a race where everyone else got a head start." Mom wiped her eyes. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said, "but that doesn't undo the damage." Sarah looked at me. "We need to make this right." Chris nodded slowly. "Yeah, we do." It wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. After that, I told them I was done playing the grateful sibling while they acted like everything was fair. I said I'd talk to the extended family, see if anyone else noticed the imbalance. That's when Dad's face hardened. "Michael, be thankful for what you got. If you're not happy, maybe you should go." That broke something in me, so I left not just the dinner, but them. I stopped chasing their approval. I stopped waiting for them to see me as equal. I turned inward, focusing on my career. I worked harder than ever, and it paid off. My small venture grew into a successful business. I built a team, won clients, and proved I didn't need them to thrive. I didn't just survive, I excelled. Then out of the blue, my phone rang. Mom's name on the screen. We hadn't spoken in ages. I hesitated, then answered.